Thank you, Marianne. So we are, I think, gathering here at an interesting time for interoperability. There are milestones, there are transitions, and there is probably some uncertainty as well. On milestones, this marks about 10 years since the first transactions on care quality. And we're also, yes, that's worth celebrating. We're also about 1 year in from the first transactions on TEFCA. Interoperability of healthcare data has grown tremendously, including through national exchange. You might even say that it's become routine-ish, and I think that is great. At the same time that we do celebrate the progress, I think we need to acknowledge the challenges that we face. We need to tackle those challenges. Challenges are probably to be expected. I think you could call those growing pains. I'd say this year, trust has become a watchword in our industry. Trust in the framework, trust that participants are using patient data in ways that were intended, and trust that as individuals, our own health information is being protected. I think perhaps an analogy for us is the early growth of the internet and community forums, and those went through challenges with growth and eventually became, I guess you'd say, social media that we know today. And in the early days, if any of you were participating in those community forums, there was this spirit of camaraderie and a can-do attitude and an excitement. And that's what allowed those things to get started, to get off the ground, and to grow. But with that growth eventually came bad actors and content moderation and monitoring tools and standards enforcement. So the internet is this essential communications and collaborations tool today, but only because it's addressed those evolving challenges. Maybe for us, we'll look back 5 years from now and say that we went through that same transition. In any event, trust is a theme that you'll see in this year's conference. Our annual meeting sessions dedicated to things like definition of treatment, navigating disagreement, and enhancing confidence. So we will, I am confident, as an industry, we will address those challenges. We will confront them. And but we do need to remember that those are not the end goal, right? The target is not addressing those challenges. The target is, it's almost like in healthcare, you've got process measures and you work towards those things, but really improved health outcomes are what you are aiming for. And for us, we're aiming that routine-ish movement of patient data advances to become automatic and in the background, where clinicians don't need to think much about how a patient's medical history gets to them, where researchers find measures of population health easy to calculate, and where patients don't need to worry someone will see their medical information whom they did not intend. And then, perhaps, advanced decision support and AI tools and patient empowerment will become routine-ish on the basis of highly reliable source data. So the Sequoia project has a track record of convening stakeholders at this intersection of policy and practice, and for leveraging public and private collaboration to advance interoperability. As chair of the board, I welcome you to this year's conference, and I welcome you to join in furthering this work together. I want to acknowledge the board of directors and thank you for your work. And we have 4 new board of director members: Nancy Bevan of Medica, Melissa Cotrist of Contexture, and Virginia Lorenzi of New York Presbyterian. and Bobby Mukala, a physician and AMA representative. So thank you all for your service. All right. Thank you. And then my last responsibility is to introduce Mickey Tripathi. And this community, of course, knows Mickey Tripathi very well. He is the Assistant Secretary for Technology and Policy at HHS, as well as the National Coordinator for Health IT. I met Mickey almost 20 years ago. I had been tasked with building an HIE in Maryland. I probably didn't even know what HIE stood for at that time, but everyone I talked to, oh, you've got to go meet Mickey Tripathi. And I think at the time someone had entrusted you with a pile of money to do some innovative things. And so I did. I flew up and met with Mickey in Boston. And Mickey was very generous with his time and advice, so much so that I flew 2 more times. I've flown back specifically to meet Mickey in Boston. He became an advisor to my board of directors, and he was an advisor to the HIEs in New York, where I work today. And I think that is probably an experience that many of us have had, is that Mickey has been an advisor to many of us, and he's been really a protagonist for our industry, especially in standing up national exchange well before his official capacities of the last few years. I think national coordinator was just an extension of that, perhaps with more ties and jackets. No tie today, which I think is great. Thank you, Mickey. So lastly, this week and last week remind me a little bit of during Dr. J's last season. Everywhere are you a Celtics fan, Mickey? I'm sorry for using a Dr. J analogy, but every stadium he went to, he was honored for all of the work through that he had done. But he was still there to play. Like there was still a game, and he was still competing and advancing the cause. And so we are excited to have Mickey with us today. And while we do want to acknowledge your many accomplishments, we're glad that you're still here to play, you're still in the game, and look forward to all that you'll continue to do with us. So welcome, Mickey.